Okay, welcome to Into the Channel podcast, primarily about women's football. I am your host, Dino De Cespedes, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Grant Engel. What is up, man?
I'm feeling pretty fantastic, buddy. I mean, is our country still just a clown show, circus, house of horrors? Yes, but the Euros are on, and that's pretty exciting, and it was a good distraction today.
Yes and yes. Euros are way on. Yeah, speaking of clown show, quick foray into the Fox pregame.
Oh, wow.
I want to just get here real quick, just so we can get out of the way. The Euros kicks off today. I wake up very early in the morning, ready to go. At an ungodly hour, I wake up and I'm ready to go. I'm just like, okay, here we go. I can't wait. So I'm like, I listened to Leanne's pod this morning. She did a great 50 minutes. I'm just grabbing as much as I can. I flip on Fox this morning for the pregame for Finland, Iceland. Did you catch the pregame that they did? Did you happen to catch it?
I did not. Carlos Alcaraz was playing tennis at Wimbledon, and I opted for that instead.
You crushed it. So that's first and foremost. But I'll just catch you up real quick. Here's what they covered. The women's game is exploding. Alexi Lawless, his World Cup experience playing in a home country. This isn't a World Cup. I don't know if they knew that. Young girls everywhere are inspired.
Sure.
They talked about Carly Lloyd's World Cup experience. Then they talked about Julie Ertz's World Cup experience. And then they talked about Julie Ertz's experience playing with Carly Lloyd in the World Cup. And then they did a lengthy USA versus Guatemala preview for the Gold Cup. Just an absolute joke of a absolute joke of a pregame. I mean, they were just kind of talking like the sport was just invented. Like if it was just invented a week ago and we're going to see how legit this thing might be or could be. It was really pretty silly. I don't want to spend too much time talking about it, but I just thought it was funny. A weird, I don't want to go so far as to call it a clown show way to kick off the tournament, but not the serious tournament kickoff I think maybe some folks were looking for.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it. I mean, to cap it off with USA Guatemala men's, I mean, you could almost make an excuse for some of the other stuff if it was sprinkled in with some like Iceland, I don't know, call me crazy, Iceland Finland preview and talking about those players and maybe their journeys to this spot. But once you hit me with the men's Gold Cup stuff, no thanks.
Yeah, I did. Ari Hingst did do one bit of analysis that I think rang relevant. She did mention Sven Jane's throw-ins, as like a dangerous weapon, and that did kind of rear its head in the match. So, shout out to Ari Hingst for kind of nailing one bit of analysis pregame. So they did hit that, and I mean, to their credit, I think there's going to be an opportunity to warm up and like watch these games. And their postgame was much better than the pregame was garbage. The postgame, at least they kind of showed a little bit that they were at least watching the match and had some stuff to say about it. And I think it'll get better. I think it'll get better as we go. But the pregame, just a really, really wobbly start. But enough of that. I want to get to the football. Well, actually, I'll kick it to you. Where should we get started, Mr. Granengo?
Let's get started with a beverage to celebrate the kickoff of this glorious tournament.
Cheers.
Cheers to you, my good man. I do want to point out that, we've talked to each other about this. I think you mentioned it on one of the last shows. We're going to try to do a show every evening, especially in this like early group stage. So more time in the gym, because if I'm going to have one beer a night for 12 nights in a row, I was like, you know what, man, I'm going to spend a little extra time in the gym because sometimes elite athletes have to do what they have to do.
I mean, everything's been working its way to this point, to these 12 nights, these 12 shows, these 12 nights. We're going to see if we can actually do it. I'm not going to make any promises with regard to our level of alertness or our level of sleepiness or our level of bloat, with these. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get to the gym as often as you'll be able to, but we'll certainly try. Either way, we're going to do our best. Tons of football. And it got rolling in earnest today. I cannot wait to talk about this first matchup. Finland, Iceland, I think A lot of surprises. I'm not sure anybody had this specific result. Some big time takeaways, but where do you want to get started with this match?
Goalkeeper fight. I thought it was a great goalkeeper match. Gunnar Stodir, and as I'm just going to live to make sure I don't, Koivunen, who I just like practiced the name like 6 times before the show even started. Before you logged on, I was like, Koivunen. Just say Koivunen. It's an easy name to say. And then I'm just like immediately leaking confidence. But Koivunen was great for Finland. Had like crucial saves, point blank saves.
Oh, yeah. Tested too.
Absolutely tested. And, both teams kind of lining up for a rock fight, 4-4-1-1 in the formation for like most of the match, it felt like. And Finland were able to keep their shell and just hang tough in the toughest of moments. And, the difference, it felt like, was pretty razor thin.
Difference was thin. I thought Finland was sharper. I thought they were a little tougher, especially in the first half.
Sure.
I thought they really kind of controlled the midfield. Really, I think they kind of made it really tough for Iceland to get anything going. The press that they were employing early, I mean, Iceland just couldn't wait to give away the ball. Like they were just like, all right, we got to go quick, got to go in. I think I was looking for a lot more from Iceland midfielder Carolina Willem-Stotir. I don't think she really got a chance to get going.
Right.
Finland Jane versus Koivisto. That was a battle all day for sure. Finland Jane couldn't really get going. Had a couple moments here and there, but I did think that Finland well in control of that first half, and Iceland probably pretty lucky to be able to go into halftime 0-0.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. And, I did see like the first like couple minutes of the halftime show before I like muted it, but to take care of some other stuff. But like, sometimes football matches are 0-0 at halftime. It felt like there was like a little bit of like, in the studio of just like, hoping for a goal. It's like, well, yeah, but it's also a football game. And so like sometimes it's 0-0 at halftime. Like, I think that's totally fine. But Anton's daughter getting that yellow card in the first half. What, she got her first one.
No, I think they were both second half. I mean, according to
okay.
FotMob, yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
it was Nystrom for Finland that got one really, really early.
In like the first minute.
Yeah, like the third minute. I got confused with those two, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, you just knew like when these two teams line up, it's going to be physical. And even then, like Finland just seemed like they were able to cope with Iceland's speed better than I expected. And even when, and you mentioned the long throws by John's daughter, like those were really it felt like, especially the one late, that was the biggest chance where the ball's like, well, I don't think it was super late, but it's like pinging around in there, and it was just causing absolute havoc for Finland's defense. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, Finland, though, was able to stand up, and I thought from a physicality standpoint, I was kind of expecting Iceland to come in and look faster, look tougher and more rugged. Right. None of those things happened, I don't think. I thought the teams looked kind of equally or equal from a speed standpoint. I thought Finland was a little tougher and kind of ready to play a little bit more physically. And then Katarina Kosola, I think we have to mention again, because we mentioned her in the preview. And actually,
damn right.
I said that I had a pretty sick card corner for Katarina, and I didn't think that I would get a chance to share it. I was wrong. Monster game. Here's Katarina Kosola. Her rookie card from Topps Chrome out of 50, the gold refractor version. So there's only 49 more of these in the world. And look at me. I got a chance to share my Katarina Kosola card. She was cooking early. I mean, she was letting it rip. She was calibrating to the highest degree. She was just like, all right, I'm going to get looks and I'm going to let it go. I kind of liked Finland, what they did early offensively. They kind of went off to the left and were more playing through Sahlstrom and Francie, up the right. And I think once they kind of like tilted the field and kind of got Iceland just kind of shading a little bit over to the right, that's when they were like, all right, we're going to flip it. And now it's like Kosola all day up the left, and she's just going to rip shots. She gets off 6 on the day, 2 on target, gets the monster goal in the 70th. and 7 touches inside the opposition box. She was like a real problem. And I thought it was pretty savvy to kind of like flip the script there early in the match and try to catch Iceland a little off guard. And I think they did. And that really set the calibration in motion, that leads to an end up, basically gets the really good look late in the match. And now she's had a couple cracks at it and just pinpoint, just perfect placement on that final strike.
She was absolutely calibrating. She was playing with gigantic confidence from the opening whistle. Yeah, I think you're totally right. They were able to keep Iceland off balance with that. And, obviously we'd be remiss if we didn't mention it didn't help Iceland's cause that Glódis Vigosdóttir was obviously hurt early and was like gutted it out and was like, hung tough in that first half. But she was clearly hampered what felt like 3 to 5 minutes in.
Yeah, I mean, almost came off in the 20s, almost came off at 35, ends up coming off at halftime. And, a player like that is so tough, and that player at like 35 is thinking, can I just get to halftime? Can I get a little treatment? Can I see if there's something that can be done and I can maybe come out and play another 15, 20, 25? And it basically just all that was left was enough to kind of get her through the half. And then you just knew it was going to be tricky because Finland was, kind of like making Iceland do a lot of real work to defend. And then Iceland just wasn't returning the favor. They weren't able to kind of like keep possession. They weren't able to kind of string together any positive sequences and like really build it up or make Finland like work defensively. Like I thought they made the Finland's defense, they kind of gave them the day off. And I think Iceland's going to be kicking themselves a little bit because once they did want to crank it up, you could see the last 25, 30 minutes of the match. Oh, wow. Like when they really get going, this is a dangerous team. This could be a dangerous team. And, at that point they're playing with 10, and that's probably like the most dangerous they looked. That's never a good sign from like a chemistry standpoint, from a game plan standpoint. Things were just kind of off there.
Yeah, I liked the late shot from Tryggvadottir. She ripped it. It's right at the keeper though. Jónsdóttir had some chances. They were trying to play her over the top, and she seemed like it was around like the 75th minute. I think she had a shot that she needed to put on frame, and you could tell she was like disappointed that she wasn't able to do it in that scenario. So, they got to try to regroup. It's a weird loss for them to take in the opener, and I think it makes this group very interesting moving forward.
Extremely interesting. So yeah, let's shift gears and talk about that second matchup. Switzerland 1, Norway 2. Big come from behind win. Where do I get started with this one?
So, it sets up with Switzerland losing this match and Iceland losing their match. They play each other on July 6th. Mm-hmm. And that means bad news for Finland because now you got to play Norway. And now Norway's going to start playing with some confidence. Yes, did that first half look a little touch and go in spots? Yeah, sure. That's fine. But now you let the big heavyweights start to get some momentum, start to get some confidence. Let's fucking go Norway.
All right. I don't have a complete different read on than you on this game, but so my main takeaway, let me try to distill this match to my one main takeaway. And there was a ton to cover. Maybe we'll get into some of the micro here in a minute, but I feel like we've sort of lamented Norway and their struggles and just being like, how are they so bad? And then like the second part of that is like, if the players are so good, how come the players can't just do amazing things in spots and have that be enough to get them a victory? And for me today, that's what this was. That was
right.
Ada Hegerberg playing gigantic, CGH up the left-hand side playing gigantic, and then the other 89 plus less gigantic.
I think that was certainly some of it. There is something that's happened, and I know Ingrid Eggen has been a good player for a while, but those reps that she got needing to play center back when Mappy Leon had that injury for Barcelona, and they needed to play Engen at center back. And you and I talked about it during not this last Champions League, but the Champions League before, 23-24. Engen had some growing pains in that center back spot. Mm-hmm. But she made so many crucial interventions from the midfield spot, tracking back on defense, just not only getting those interventions, but then playing with a level of composure and calmness that, comes along with a multiple time Champions League winner, like a championship level player. And so I just thought she was gigantic, and she needed to be. And I thought she was probably the most consistent player on the field for Norway today.
Yeah, I mean, I thought she was their best player. I mean, I think it's kind of fair to say that. I mean, she was a beast in the midfield. And then when you think about where Switzerland was finding success, Reason up one side, Benet up the other, and then later in the match, it's Pilgrim, Shirt Live, the same thing. So I mean, England really was controlling a lot of the center of the park. I think they were kind of missing that let me think about the lineups. Like I think they were missing that midfielder to connect. And I think Laurie Lindsay was talking about it quite a bit. We're like, all right, these Norway players are all kind of making the same runs, and they're all occupying the same spaces. They were like, when you think about just to juxtapose against Finland did great not occupying space with like three players clumped in one area or the wrong area. Like it just felt like the spacing was beautiful from what they were doing. Norway, not so much. England was definitely in need of one more player to be able to connect the ball to kind of keep things moving. But, credit to them, huge moments, and they kind of come from behind. They didn't panic, and I think that, falling behind, you could see how that was definitely on the table, especially playing in Switzerland.
I think the great Jackie Goatley, if you will, described Ada Hegerberg's goal as almost looking like it was out of frustration, where Ada Hegerberg was just like, here, damn, like we have to score a goal. Like I'm going to score this goal because we have to get back in this to do this. And that's who she is. I mean, the Ballon d'Or is the Champions League, the all-time league scorer in the history of the Champions League. That's what she does, man. And so you could just feel the confidence like lift in Norway. They just needed to just like shake off all these bad results from the past 2 Euros and like losing in the World Cup the way they did. It's just like, and even to the build up to this tournament, they just needed to shake some of those bad vibes off. And it felt like Hegerberg was able to do that. And conversely, it felt like Switzerland was like, ooh boy, did we accidentally step in it here? And then it leads to the own goal, because it just felt like they started to kind of feel the weight of what's it going to look like if Hegerberg and CJH start running at us with a lot of confidence.
No, that's totally true. And I think it was so funny because watching Hegerberg before the corner gets taken, she's standing behind Guro Reiten, and she's got like her hands on Guro Reiten's shoulders, like, let me just use you like as like a like a practice or like a practice code. I'm gonna do a swim move and like kind of get around you here. But it was really incredible, and I encourage anybody to go back and try to look at the shot of the replay. But there's a shot taken from the opposite goal, so you're looking up the pitch, right? And then when you watch Hegerberg, like when you watch the replay, you're just like, okay, well, she's tall, she's great in the air, she could jump. But when you watch the replay, you see the steps that she takes. It's like right, left, right. It's like she's taking these like she's just like pivot to get to that one open area and basically keep herself, basically keep defenders within, 3-4, feet away from her at all times. But if you watch the footwork on that play, absolutely stunning, just totally world class. And then the goal Selly. I mean, maybe the most ice cold goal Selly I think I've ever seen. So she scores, stone face. She points at the crowd. She's like, points at the crowd, and then she says, and then she goes, she's like, this is my shit right here.
Yeah, that's why I'm here.
This is my shit right here. It was so awesome. I'm like, is this Norway, Switzerland, or is this Dexter season 7? Is this a preview? What am I watching here? This just looks like a freaking serial killer out there.
I mean, like you said, ice cold, and she knew it like that. I mean, that's why she's there. Like, that's why I love the Selly. And sometimes you just have players for clubs or for national teams where it has to be them also in like a weird way. Where like to talk about men's football for a moment, I've said that about Rodri a million times for Manchester City. It's just
Yep.
like he will do something. It's like, yeah, it had to be him. And then like everybody else is like, oh yeah, we have that player. Like we should start playing with more confidence. Like this,
Yep.
we're actually in pretty good shape here. And so I do think part of what you're saying of like, for large chunks of the match, Switzerland looked dangerous in some spots, and I was telling you before the show, I have just, because of all of our pals in Bergen, Norway, who, when we started, for anybody who hasn't been like rocking with us for a long time, recurring viewers, this is the world's foremost SK Braun podcast. But for anybody who's just joining us, we became fans of Braun during the 23-24 Champions League. And the Braun Battalion embraced us. So now I just have like this love for Norway because everybody there has been so cool to us. I was very much fanning during this match where there's some parts of my notes I'm not particularly proud of, where I was not thrilled with some of the passing and some of the link up play. I thought it was less than good in spots. Yep. I think Merit Bratberg Lund, formerly of the aforementioned SK Braun, did not have a good game. Was having a rough go of it out there for long stretches. But when that first goal goes in, all caps, Ada Hegerberg header, we are in fucking business, baby. 1-1. Next note, again, all caps, own goal because the Swiss are rattled.
The Swiss are cut.
Yeah. Nicely done. And and then, later on, I type the notes in not in all caps. Oh shit, here comes Sydney Schurtenleib.
Yeah, no, she came on and looked immediately pretty dangerous. But I think at that point, so Hegerberg gets the goal. CGH, unbelievable duel winning, up the left-hand side to be able to win that, and then like that's one of those where it's like, okay, well, if she wins it, she's going to be able to whip a ball in. It's going to be dangerous. And the goal almost happens when she wins that duel. And like she's able to get on the end of that ball. And then there was a moment not too much later where Benet on a kind of like on a back pass, that was the moment right before the penalty. So like that back pass leads to the corner, leads to the penalty that Hegerberg puts wide. But yeah, definitely Switzerland definitely rattled. There was mentioned quite a bit that they were the youngest team in the field. I think I don't want to say that showed, but I think there is some correlation there. You've got a young team, playing at a talent disadvantage, and they sort of like give up a lead against a side that probably was the favorite. But I want to ask you a question here. You already alluded to it. Norway, Finland. I think you could make the case that Finland looked the best of the four teams today. Now, if I asked you to take off your Norway colored glasses, I could point you in a couple different stats. So okay. Shots today, 17-8 in favor of Switzerland. Shots on target, 7-3 in favor of Switzerland. Outpossessed, completed passes at a much less rate. So Norway gets the win. But I think probably more so on the heels of those two, kind of brilliant moments and a couple more, sprinkled along there. But if I were to tell you that I thought Finland looked the best today of the four, what's your take on that?
It's not an outrageous opinion. May I just say, though, Norway, 4 big chances to Switzerland's 2. I think Norway could have scored more. And obviously,
Switzerland could have scored more, too.
That's fair. I mean, they could have. I don't think they don't have the quality of Norway.
Reutler smashed the post. The Avalti, she hammered one in that could have made things interesting. But they definitely had looks. I mean, this one could have gone. The own goal in there. I would kind of like settle it down a little. This wasn't quite the. Let's try to temper some of those the Norway expectations. But I definitely appreciate your enthusiasm. I'm into it.
No, that's totally fine. And 1.9 xG to 1.16 xG in favor of Norway. I mean, let's not forget that, obviously. But yeah, I think penalty probably helped. Which obviously, but Hegerberg should smash that in most other occasions. That would have made it 3-1. It would have got real late in Basel, real early had she made that. I thought that was uncharacteristic of her. Obviously, I never doubted for a second that she would take it. I know her and CGH were standing up there. I didn't, I wanted Hegerberg to take it, so there's no second guessing there either.
Yep.
But I guess you could make the argument that Finland probably, that they maybe played better than Norway. I'm not making that argument though. You can make that argument by yourself. That's totally fine. And I want to see these two teams line up on July 6th, and I want to see Norway start just to kind of put this group away.
All right, man. I'll be there. Don't be late.
You're not hard to find.
I'm not hard to find. Mentioned it twice last episode. All right, man. Anything else you want to hit before we get out of here?
Dude, what a start. I'm excited for it. What a great beginning to the tournament. And, the crowd was electric too, obviously in the Switzerland-Norway match, which is another thing I do. There is one thing I want to get to, is that Norway winning that match when the host country has pretty much everything going for them in those situations. I can tell you, there were some dark moments in the first half of my notes that were like, oh, what was I thinking? Host nation, opening match, they gapped some talent. But nope, they overcame and they made it happen. And, they got all to play for the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the over-under on when you start referring to Norway as we and not they, but we'll see. Maybe it's coming soon. You alluded to the schedule tomorrow. Belgium takes on Italy, 9 a.m. Pacific, and the World Cup champion Spain take on Portugal, 12 p.m. Pacific. Cannot wait for that to get going. All right, man. 12 days of UEFA Women's Euros 2025 group stage football. 1 down, 11 to go. This is a massive tournament. I have a feeling we're in for a super memorable, just kind of watershed kind of tournament. Like, I know it is a little silly, a little cliche, but it does feel like this tournament specifically has some surprises for us. I think where the field is maybe even more open, I think, than the betting odds would kind of lead you to believe. I think the surprises today, probably more evidence of that. Either way, long story short, we're going to be right here with you to cover all of it, definitely all of it in the group stage, all the way through the final. But yeah, we're getting our conditioning up for these 12 days. But I'm just kind of happy. One's in the books, 11 to go.
Last thing, thinking of conditioning, how about the aforementioned Jackie Oatley and Lori Lindsay, Jackie Goatley and Double L, as we like to refer to them both.
Let's go.
Talking about conditioning, calling both matches today. The only question I have, will they call all 48 group stage matches?
I don't think there's 48. There's going to be 24. There's 2 a day for 12 days. Yeah.
Son of a bitch. Okay, I was like, every team. Oh, yeah. Okay, I was doing every team plays 3 games. Yep. But they got to play another team, so that's how that works. Okay. Glad we can sign off on that note.
That's all right, man. We're teammates. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to kind of prop you up. I'm just right here by your side, touch tight, Lori Lindsay style. I appreciate you, bro.
Likewise, buddy.
All right, man.